Representative Chenevert? We're going to take up House Bill 421 by Representative Chenevert. Ms. Smith?
House Bill number 421 by Representative Chenevert provides relative to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Representative Chenevert on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, thank you for allowing me to be here today. I know it's been a long one for all of you today. I did want to mention in the best posture, I know I have a substitute bill. If we want to go ahead and mention that as well.
Let's go and take up that substitute now. Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, members, this is a substitute bill. You should have it before you. At the top, it says draft, and it also says substitute for House Bill 421 by Representative Chenevert. For those viewing online, it is added as Amendment 2475.
All right, we have amendments at 2475. Is any objection to the adoption of this substitute? Yes, ma'am. Representative Marcel?
So this substitute bill was only done last night at 8:39? And would that have given the public enough notice on the substitute bill? Can we digest this maybe and put it on next week? I'm wondering, would you have a problem with that, Representative Chenevert?
Wait, I'm sorry. What was your question, Marcel? I'm sorry.
I'm saying that your substitute bill just came out last night at 8:39. And I don't believe that that's enough time to give notice really to the public or any of us to digest what's in your substitute bill. Would you be amenable to bringing this back next week?
I'd like to continue. I'd like to share a little bit about the substitute bill. It was some amendments, but because it was a little bit longer, the idea was to have a substitute bill because of what we added. And so this bill really, a lot of the content is the same. I added some laws that were in statute to confirm what we were doing was not going against any laws with discrimination, making sure all that was protected. Added some definitions. So it was just more clarifying more to be more specific in the bill, so it did not change the content really of the bill.
That's my concern, Mr. Chairman, that we just got this at 8:39 last night. That would be my concern with the substitute bill.
All right.
The public didn't have time.
I'm going to offer up House substitute bill, the amendment set 1709. Is that an objection or?
Yeah, that's an objection because I don't think it gives, this is an important bill, I don't think it gives the public the proper notice that they need to digest this bill.
Okay. I've made a motion to take up substitute bill 1709. There's been objection from Representative Marcel. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair Boyer?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Bayham? Representative Billings? Representative Bayham? Yes. Representative Billings? Yes. Representative Boyd? No. Representative Carter? No. Representative Farnham?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Gadberry? Yes. Representative Larvernane? No. Vice Chair Lyons?
No.
No. Representative Marcel? No. Representative McMakin? Yes. Representative Newell? No. Representative Shammerhorn? Yes. Representative Thomas? Yes. Representative Wright? Yes. Representative Weibel? Yes. There are 10 yeas and 6 nays.
All right. The amendment set, the substitute bill has been adopted. So on the substitute bill, Ms. Chenevert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this bill, as mentioned, deals with state agencies and higher ed as it pertains to DEI, or the promotion of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives within Louisiana state agencies and public post-secondary institutions. I'm going to go over some of the main components of this bill. This bill And as mentioned in definitions, as it pertains to DEI-related instructional content and undergraduate degree requirements, it's a mandatory, so it would basically ban just mandatory. This bill is not banning actual courses that people can choose to take. This bill is just simply banning a mandatory required class on DEI-related instructional content. It prohibits the establishment of DEI offices, training, and roles in state agencies and universities. It directs the Commissioner of Administration to conduct an annual audit of compliance and report findings. It clarifies exceptions for academic freedom, for federal legal compliance, and non-instructional DEI initiatives. Also within this bill, it talks about how we must audit and just revise academic programs to ensure the DEI content exclusion in state agencies and eliminate DEI-related training, staff positions, or programs. Also, I just want to note that this bill also puts us in alignment that supports the Supreme Court decision in the Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard, which basically ruled that race could not be considered in that idea as it pertains to admissions within universities. A lot of states are looking at that ruling and making sure that we in Louisiana, this bill would put us in line with that decision as well. I would also like to say, I have a colleague here, if he can also speak a little bit too, I've worked a little bit with, and also he can introduce himself and talk a little bit about this bill and what it does.
You filled out one of the cards?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Pull that microphone up to you a little bit better.
Sorry.
There you go.
Thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Well, hold on. Introduce yourself for us, please.
My name is John Mason. I'm a visiting fellow with FGA Action. We're a nonpartisan advocacy organization that promotes good governance and helps individuals achieve the American dream.
All right.
Representative Chenevert really hit this on the head, so I'll be as brief as practicable. This is an incredibly straightforward and reasonable bill. It doesn't ban teaching anything. It doesn't ban discussing anything. It just ensures that ineffective curricula won't be a graduation requirement for Louisiana students. It also ensures that public institutions can't use divisive criteria in hiring nor admissions. The bill targets expensive programs. Nationwide, DEI is a $9 billion industry, even though studies have shown over and over that it is ineffective at achieving its stated goals. That's why more than 40 universities are currently under a microscope for their DEI practices as a Title VI violation. Tulane's under investigation. The University of Arkansas, University of Kentucky, UAB are under the microscope. The state can be proactive before the state loses money defending terrible policy. Several states have already banned or passed similar bans, keeping them out of higher education, state agencies, or both. So we'd follow the example of states like Texas, Utah, Arkansas, Florida, and the Dakotas. So Louisiana would be in good company passing this. All that's to say, this is a really great opportunity by leading the way and ensuring that the state protects civil rights. With that, I'm very glad to support this bill.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mason. We have some questions. Representative Newell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Rep. Chenevert. And, sir, what's your name again? I'm sorry.
John Mason.
Good morning, Mr. Mason. Afternoon, Mr. Mason. We received lots of emails, well, several emails, not lots, maybe about 12 or so, that people indicated that DEI needs to be eradicated or needs to be dismantled, and prioritizing individual merit. However, as a black woman, I've only been able to get jobs in government agencies because they were forced to see me. They were forced to give me an opportunity because with my 3 degrees, I still was not given opportunity based on my merit because the color of my skin and the gender that I was born kept me out of those places. We have labeled DEI as some type of bad thing or as a handout to people when it was only opening a door and giving people like myself, my mother, my father, my grandmother opportunities that we weren't given just because we were not seen because of our skin color. DEI also opened the doors for women of all backgrounds to have an opportunity. When this conversation started, so many people thought that the biggest benefactors of the DEI program were Black people. However, a lot of us were surprised, some of us, myself included, were not, to learn that the majority of the people that benefited from DEI programs were white women, because women weren't given opportunities and Black people weren't given opportunities. When I think about diversity, I think about my time in college. I was at Southern studying psychology. I had to take a class at UNO, which gave me the most anxiety I've had. And I was sitting in the classroom, and the professor asked, "What is DWB?" And at that moment was when I realized that I was the only Black person in that classroom. And the young man that raised his hand laughed and told the professor, "You mean DWI?" And I politely said, "No, that's not what he meant. He meant driving while Black." But that having that diversity in that classroom, although it was just me, added to a moment to give some clarity to someone that was not raised to have to see me, that was not raised to have to include me or accept me, but had to realize and deal with the fact that you got to live with me. And living with me means giving opportunities to me. And there was so many things put in place to give women, Black people, and other minorities just an opportunity to show that we are capable. Yes, promotion should be based on
Representative
merit.
Newell, I'm letting you try and finish your thought, but
I am.
but try and get to
The
it.
opportunities and promotions are based on merit, but you cannot get to that point if the doors are constantly closed because you're just looking at the skin tone and the gender that somebody was born with.
Thank you, Representative Newell. Representative Weibel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rep. Chenevert, I had, because I'd been contacted by a constituent, I have some questions around, like, the disability. Yeah, you'll have to just look straight ahead. I'm relegated
I can
to
do this
here.
too, it's fine.
Yeah. I'm told if we got rid of the column, it might affect the building. But so in terms of the disability community, is there anything in here that would impact or contradict Americans for Disability Act? Or so, is there something I'm not reading or seeing? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, great question. I had spoken to some people about that as well, and in the bill, we actually referenced that this bill by no means will interfere with the American Disabilities Act, which prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities in various aspects of public life, including employment, public services, public accommodations, and transportation. That act is protected, and those people are protected. And as a woman who had a sister who passed away when she was 2, who had Down syndrome, I care greatly about anyone that has any type of when it just needs additional accommodations in any measure. And so that those people, they will not be impacted with this bill.
In terms of,
it protects them continually.
right, no physical restrictions, no any implications, well, I guess I should say explicit or implied, that would impact that particular community.
That is correct. And I can actually have, if he would, as an attorney, he can speak to that even more. That's listed in this bill, but I made very clear that we wanted to put that in there.
Right, and then one quick question before you speak to that. You mentioned course selection. That is not impacted or affected by this particular.
This bill, in the very first page, we look at it, it says mandated, and I think that's what's very critical is that we don't want to have to mandate when people are graduating, they have to sit through a course that could be listed as a DEI-related instructional course. Now, again, we also made exceptions for that the board could make that decision if there is a certain course course or there's a certain degree that requires classes that maybe fall under this, that they have that exception, because it would be something they would have to take for, that specific course. But we don't want to have to make every student. This would just, as a state, universities and dollars, that if they did not choose that they would not have to be forced to take that.
Thank you. Do you want to speak?
Yeah, not to pair it too much, but building off of that, as far as the ADA goes, it's 1601C1 specifically has a carve-out for compliance with the ADA.
Thank you. And at the appropriate time, Mr. Chair, I'll move to report favorable.
Thank you, Representative Weibel. Representative Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. DEI seems so nice words: diversity, equality, inclusion. You got any problem with any of those words, Madam Representative?
No, Rep. Carter, I believe in those things. I believe that diversity can mean a lot of things. I think one thing I love about it is that it can mean, I think it can mean race, but I think we're even more than just the color of our skin. I think that no matter how much melanin that we have or don't have, that people's age, their experiences, I think that it can mean a lot of things.
All right. Now, DEI has nothing to do with qualifications, does it not? That whether or not, if you applying to be a air traffic controller, there are independent requirements to require you to pass certain tests and meet certain levels in order to be an air traffic controller or whatever you're applying for. There are qualifications.
I would assume. I'm not that, but I would assume.
And DEI does not state an exception to qualification. Are you aware of any DI law that allows folks to get around qualification of a person, the qualification to do the job?
Well, what this bill is focusing on is not.
I know we're talking about classes,
right?
Yeah.
I understand that. What I'm saying is, we're just saying that they probably do have. You have to qualify based on how many hours you fly. I would assume, and all of that. I would assume that they could not discriminate against anyone. It would just have to be if they meet the requirements of flying or whatever else. I would assume I would hope that's how.
Well, let's talk about the bills more specific. The universities, okay. So what courses would be considered a DEI course in your opinion?
Well, it's not my opinion, but I can tell you, if you want to look at the bill, we can look at that as far as on that mandatory undergraduate coursework, DEI-related instructional content, and then on, I know my page is not the longer version, but you can see a list of different things that could be considered in trainings or things that people could be forced to in a mandated course to take. And so it's listed there a little bit in the bill. And so that would be something that in this, that some could say could maybe promote differential treatment of any type of individual or group. And we just, again, this bill is just about following under federal laws. We do not want to infringe on that. It is just simply creating equality for all, opportunity for all Louisianians, no matter race or background or where they come from. That's what this bill is about.
So who would decide that the class is DEI? The student or the university? Who decided this is a class, is a DEI class?
Well, if you look at the bill, it would talk about certain things that are discussed or talked about. But again, we're not prohibiting these classes from being available. As my colleague mentioned, is that I do believe that if someone would want to take that class, they can choose to do though. This is about being just mandated that they have to take this, no matter what their degree is. It would say that we're not making someone take the course.
Okay, so Western civilization, or say European history, European history would not be a mandatory class. Cannot be a mandatory class.
No, I'm saying that. So also
for graduation purposes, I'm just picking out one. Would that be an example of a kid having to take European history as part of graduation? Would that be that be prohibited?
All right, 3 minutes is up, but I'm going to let you answer that question.
I'm a little unclear, Rep. Carter, but I can share. I want to read something from the bill. I don't know if it's going to answer.
Okay.
It does say that DEI-related instructional content does not include any of the following. So things that could be historical movements or ideologies or just different instances of discrimination. All of that is definitely welcome to be discussed. Those things are very important. We need to talk about everything in our world and in culture. And so this bill is very clear where we're making it very clear that that's not considered instructional content with DEI. So those things are obviously welcome to be discussed. And if you want to expand on that, but I just read from the bill.
3 minutes is up. Representative Marcel.
I'm going to pick up the ball right where he kicked it. So I'm trying to figure out, because I'm looking for the list of the things that you're talking. So American history can continue to be taught, right?
Of course, yeah.
Of
Again, we're
course.
not saying that we're also saying that, again, these classes are available. We are not removing.
But what are you?
It's about mandating people to take classes.
Okay, but they mandate a lot of colleges and high schools mandate that people take American history. That's a mandate. And what are you removing? So you're not going to remove American history, right?
What I'm saying is, it says in the bill of what I'm specifically talking to DEI-related instructional content.
But only, and when you say, and that's what I'm asking you, what's the definition of what are you calling DEI? Because your DEI might be different from my DEI, right?
Well,
So tell me.
there are some terminologies, and especially as it pertains to DEI trainings and discussions as it pertains to this type of
And
initiative.
I only have 3 minutes, so let me add something really quick, because you brought up a good thing about training. You know, we had issues with the police and how they were treating people in our state, and we implemented trainings, and we wanted race-related trainings. We want the police to know about African American males, and we wanted to make sure that message was real clear. So we implemented that in the state.
All right, let's try this again, and it's got us back up. So let me just, I'm gonna turn some mics on. Let's see, can y'all give me a test up there?
Test.
All right.
Test.
So I have Representative Marcel lit up, and Representative Laura Dane is next in the queue. Representative Boyd just lit up, so if there was somebody else that... Okay. All right. You're up to go ahead and press your buttons again then. So I don't have the order, but right now the orders go Representative Marcel.
Okay.
You finish it?
So with the police and the mandatory training that they have to have with race, would this bill change that?
Well, Rep. Marcel, I will tell you that some of the discussions within DEI-related instructional content, this is referring to, as it pertains to this specific area, as it pertains to undergrad.
You're talking about undergrad, but I'm asking you.
Right,
This is your
correct.
legislation. I ain't got but a second. I need to know, will this change
Correct.
any of the policies that we have implemented in the state of Louisiana as it relates to race relations with the police department and our communities?
No, so Rep.
won't?
Marcel, I do not see this bill doing that, and I have talked to different groups, and I'm happy to continue that conversation on the way to the floor.
Okay.
I know that.
But it says training. That
Right,
scares
and look,
the
and I
hell
will
out
say
of me.
this bill is supported by the governor's office. I know he cares great about law enforcement, cares great about moving forward and what we're doing. This is part
And
of
I
his
care
package.
great about law enforcement and the
I
community.
do too.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think it's very important as well. Thank
And
you.
one other thing, the influence, you got any effort of influence of hiring. Do you, maybe you probably have never experienced this, but do you understand that the reason why DEI and DBEs were created was to give African Americans and women an opportunity to get the foot in the door? It's not a hand up, it's a hand out. Do you get that? Because I passed a policy on city council for DBE, and it was inclusive of not just African Americans, but women, and more women benefited from it, white women, than black women.
All right, I'm going to let you answer that question.
Yeah, but I mean, can you help me? Because I'm confused of what you're trying to get rid of, because I think it works really good myself.
3 minutes is up. I'm going to let you answer that question. Just be direct.
Rep. Marcel, what we want to do in this bill is make sure that there is no discrimination. No discrimination. And so what I love about some of the laws that are actually referred to in my bill is that it is incredibly unfortunate that is taking place. But our laws, because DEI are not laws, they are just initiatives, and I understand that, but our laws are, that is what's critical, is to make sure that we are abiding by the laws of the land, both the federal level and state level. And so no matter how you have a lot of melanin or no melanin, is that we've got to make sure that I believe that it is incredibly important that we have equal opportunity for all. That is our goal. That is my goal, and I know it's probably all of our goals.
3 minutes is up. Representative Larverdane, we got it.
I know we have to go.
Larverdane.
You can come back. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, you're Mr. Mason. What's FGA?
It's the Foundation for Government Accountability.
Okay, you're an attorney?
Yes.
Okay. And you
Former attorney.
former attorney. Okay. Look at your substitute bill real quick. You have a copy. It's page 1 of 8.
Yes, sir.
All right. On page 1, it says 18, 19, 20. Instructional content that relates to critical race theory, white fragility, white guilt, systematic racism, institutional racism, anti-racism, systematic bias, implicit bias, unconscionable bias. What is that? Well, explain that to me. Because I want to know the crux of why we filed the bill. I got some problems with this. Explain that to me, and I'm real quickly.
So my understanding is the crux there is just these are, concepts that are divisive when taught and have negative outcomes as far as promoting tolerance, as far as promoting inclusion. So the whole crux of it is just making sure, say you're an engineering student, that you don't have to take a course on intersectionality or gender identity in order to get your degree.
Let me ask you a question. Let's go to history. Back in 1957, 9 children integrated Little Rock 9 because they were denied access to other schools. Can we talk about issues like that in history?
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a carve-out to make sure that history isn't covered up. I'm looking for the language right now, but it's...
I'm looking at it right now. It's the identification. It says that DEI-related instructional content does not include any of the following: the identification or discussion of historical movements, ideologies, or instances of racial hatred or discrimination, including but not limited to slavery, Indian removal, the Holocaust, Japanese-American internment. So we do not want to hinder any of those discussions in any capacity. We also have it mentioned, too, in the bill that this bill is going to, again, protect the First Amendment rights of anyone to communicate these things. And so that's not what this bill is doing in any way. You can still discuss all of that.
We can talk about slavery and how
Of
blacks,
course.
Absolutely.
so forth. Why do we have this bill? That's the question.
Well,
So, yeah, short answer is just, mandating these at the university level is, first off, like I mentioned, several studies showing that the stated outcomes of the courses are not working. They don't help tolerance. They don't help with real-life inclusion. So rather, they just force the states or businesses to hemorrhage money for courses that are ineffective. So a crux of it, you can say, to answer your previous question, is that this saves the state money by not having to bleed money into ineffective programs.
Let's look at, on page 2, you talk about post-secondary educational management. How would this program, how would DEI program deal with Southern University and Gramblin's mission? They educate mostly minority students, those that are struggling. How did this benefit them?
this does not... I'm sorry.
3 minutes up, but go ahead and answer the question.
They will all continue to do everything that they're doing, Rep. Larverdane. This is strictly about mandating DEI-related courses based on when people, we're just prohibiting mandating courses for students. So it's not getting into anything of that you're speaking to at all specifically at all. It is just, this is about mandating those courses at universities.
Okay. Can I get another bite at the apple?
3 minutes is up. We got to stay consistent here. Representative Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have several questions, because we've been focusing mostly on schools, but this affects state agencies too, correct?
That's correct.
And I think I heard you explain that some positions will be eliminated now?
Well, it depends on those departments if there's anything that would fall underneath this bill. Currently, right now, I haven't had anyone reach out specifically from the different departments about those, but it would just have to be reviewed and looked at. Rep. Boyd.
And if they're there under the quote-unquote DEI, they would be let go?
If they would fall in this, that's correct. They would be eliminated.
It seems so crazy to me because every profession in our state is lacking workforce right now. Every profession. So you would then fire people who are there doing the work. Is there going to be something to see if they're doing their job properly? It's just going to be if you were hired DEI, regardless if you're doing a great job, you're fired.
Well, I will say, Rep. Boyd, there are, right now, there are some probably, there are some changes being made. I know I've seen some universities made some changes in the past once they saw the admissions, that the ruling of the Supreme Court within that. That ruling has kind of
rolled out.
Not
just talking about universities, though.
Right, but I'm also saying, and just talking about state agencies, as far as every department, since my bill does include that, it would just be looked at to see, do we have any of that? To my knowledge, I don't know how many positions that would be. But again, this is about just making sure that every position. I want to be clear.
I got 3 minutes. I want to be clear. If they were hired under the DEI and this position is eliminated, regardless of how effective they've been in their job, they're going to be fired.
This could reduce government if that person is in a position that is solely, strictly underneath this bill for DEI-related initiatives.
I'm sorry. Keep calling them colleague. What's your colleague's name? I'm sorry.
John Mason.
John. Okay, you mentioned some class or degree someone was getting, and they couldn't be forced to take a gender identity class. Are you aware of any school that teaches gender identity?
Not off the top of my head.
So you just said it, but it wasn't factual.
No, that's incorrect.
You did say that. No.
If you're looking at schools that offer courses
I am not
in
incorrect.
that vein,
You said gender identity class.
If we ask a question, let's let him answer.
Wait, he's not gonna speak the untruth though.
Well, let's let him answer. We want to repeat the question?
I asked the question. What universities teach a gender identity class?
Okay.
Because you said gender identity class.
All right, and go ahead and answer your question.
So specifically referencing gender identity is one of the things referenced in the bill. I don't have a list of universities that have a gender identity course. I want to say offhand, I believe UCLA, Berkeley, and several others do have those in their courses.
Because he took up some of my time. You said how many states have this already implemented?
In some way, shape, or form, I want to say the count is currently 13.
Some way, shape, or form. Good guy. And you reference former attorney. What does that mean?
It means that I now work with FGA Action.
So you are not an attorney anymore because you work somewhere else?
All right.
Or were you disbarred?
3 minutes up, Representative Lyons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Schoenberg, do you particularly understand the definition of what DEI is?
Yeah, I understand. I understand what it is.
To be what?
Well, a lot of people may have their own definitions
What's
of what
yours?
DEI, but I will tell you, for me, this bill this isn't about just me, Rep. Lyons. This is about
your definition.
Can I answer? I'd just like to answer.
Yes, go ahead.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, we know these terms. They're good terms. Like I mentioned before, I break it apart. Diversity is a beautiful thing. And I think diversity is more than just who we are, just our color, it is everything that we bring to the table. I understand what inclusion is. We include people. I totally understand that. I understand equitable. I understand all those things. But what we're doing right in this bill is some of the initiatives and some of the things, if we're requiring people to sit through trainings where they have to be taught or told that possibly because of your skin tone, possibly because of this, you may think this way, so we need you to be trained in this, or possibly, I think that we're getting reading into lines of discrimination. And that's what's taking place right now across the country. It's why states like Ohio, Mississippi, West Virginia, Idaho, Kentucky, Wyoming, Iowa, Kansas, Utah, Florida, Tennessee just passed, Texas, and Alabama are starting to look at these initiatives and saying these could be in violation of Civil Rights Act. These could be in violation because it protects all Americans and for us, all Louisianians. So for me, I look at it and say, you know, I want fairness for everybody in Louisiana.
Okay, I'm on the 3 minute. I don't want you to answer that question for 3 minutes.
I just answered what my definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion was.
The definition of diversity, let me see if you don't know this particular piece. It's inclusion. Well, DEI, as its acronym is the framework for creating a workplace or an organization that values and supports the diverse backgrounds and experiences of all its members. It involves actively promoting fair treatment and full participation for everyone, especially those who have historically been unprecedentedly or discriminated against. So it just gives opportunities for everybody to be treated fairly. That's all it does. And programs are there throughout the country to create that homogeneous morale or moral, or I guess if you look at the trajectory of how this country is now, it works. Mr. Major said he called them failed programs, but I don't know what evidence he has of a failed program when people get along, people work together, and people can do those things. You answered a question earlier by Representative Weibel asking about ADA. In fact, that's not technically correct because ADA requirements deal with the disabilities of a person. Diversity inclusion only promotes that they are included along with everyone else. So them being in this building and this bill is covered is not correctly true, because if a person has a disability, they can be chosen under this bill. When this goes through, they can be not included because of their disability, based upon the fact that they have to demonstrate that to get wherever they're going. It takes the qualification piece out of it. So that's all I'm saying. I know we're on a 3 minute time limit, Mr. Chairman, so I wanted to just finish my statement and be done to that regard.
I'll just be brief real quick, just to answer his question, Rep. Lyons. I want to read directly from the bill what the definition is, because this bill will not discriminate against anyone with disabilities as written in the bill.
Definition.
And I have it written in the bill that says that we as a state cannot violate that law. We cannot pass a law that will violate that. Some people may try, but this bill does not violate that. The definition of this is any effort to influence hiring or employment practices with respect to race, color, ethnicity, sex, national origin, gender identity, or sexual orientation, or other than through the use of hiring processes to reduce gender-based or race-based biases in accordance with applicable state and federal anti-discrimination laws.
All right.
So this bill will not. I just wanted to bring the answer.
Okay. Ma'am, when you talk about DEI, at LSUA I have a African American scholarship event, and they raise money for African American students. Can we have those type of programs so we can generate and so forth?
I don't see any violation of that.
I don't either, no. I don't
That
think
doesn't
would be
affect
affected.
Hispanic. What about African American scholarships for women?
Doesn't impact
scholarships.
that. Doesn't affect sports. Doesn't
Asians.
affect any of that, because again, all that is under Title IX and all that's protected.
You want to deal with DEI, but you don't. Why you don't want to touch sports? Why do we don't touch sports?
I'm confused, Rep. Larvadain, because this bill is about a mandated course within DEI-related courses, which is what I just mentioned, and it's also within state agencies. And so Title IX actually protects. This bill is in line with that. This bill says that that's the law of the land, and no initiatives can ease into it or can hinder any of our laws. Title IX actually protects women in sports. Some in this country actually have not followed that, but that is actually what Title IX is about, too.
Your bill is based on a lot of academic areas when you're talking about courses and so forth. So what you can teach in certain classes. So I'm concerned about why you have the bill, because if you look at teachings and so forth, that's academic. Why was this not in Education Committee?
Well, this deals with state agencies as well, and this is also not actually hindering any courses. This is just for people to have to sit through mandated DEI instructional content, which are trainings. Those courses are still there. We are not hindering those courses. Those courses can still be available. They are able to take those courses. So we are not removing, and again, the free speech is written in this bill where it is protected.
So you don't want any DEI training at all.
No DEI trainings, according to this bill that would prohibit DEI trainings.
Okay. And then you don't want, why is it so difficult to have DEI training? Isn't it important that everybody understands everybody's culture? If I'm African American, I have no problem learning another person's culture, but you don't want that.
No, that's not what I'm saying, Rep. Larverdane. I think it's very important within state dollars that everyone's going to have their opinion on how we deal with very heart issues as it pertains to how we deal with people that look different from us, for sure. People of nonprofits will continue to do all types of trainings and private sector. This is about state dollars and state funds.
And you don't want state dollars going to DEI programs.
This bill would prohibit DEI trainings in state departments.
You had a bill last year where you determined how many you want to get, the number of dollars that was spent in colleges and universities. Is that correct?
It was in K through 12th, and then it was for undergrad.
What did you find with that bill that you filed? What was the outcome of that?
That was state dollars. It was not federal dollars. A lot of the spend does come from the federal dollars. There was some dollars spent. I do not have that report in front of me. It was a very long report. There were things I believe that people thought that fell into DEI, but some of the things on the report did not. So there is, and I'm happy to get that to you.
All right, thank you. Representative Marcel for another bite of the apple.
Thank you. Are you removing Black history or slavery with this bill? So
No,
they
Rep.
can still
Marcel, that's not touched.
Let me ask you a question. Let me finish. So if that's a mandatory course, then what's going to be the outcome of that?
This bill does not prohibit any of those discussions. I read it earlier. I can read it again.
No, I don't need you to read it. It doesn't do that,
No,
right?
it would not prohibit any of those discussions, Rep. Marcel.
Okay. But
Those discussions are very important in our society.
We were cut off on the police piece. What do you think about that?
I hit that piece and said that it's not going to, it would not impact state police.
It's not going to impact.
And I said
they have mandatory training, though.
Well, if
mandatory, it's mandatory training.
They have mandatory DEI-related training.
Race relations.
Mandatory. Is it DEI? Is it? Look, Rep. Marcel, people, when this bill was dropped and talking to people about different departments, if there's any concerns, I'm happy to work with people as we move down there. I do not want to hinder to make sure that whether it's state troopers, law enforcement, we have to make sure they have the trainings. I'm happy to work with whoever. Again, isn't the bill listed? Those trainings, DEI, there's nothing with police and how we work in our community or community police trainings is not listed in this bill. So if for some reason we have to talk to state police.
Agency, that's why I'm asking.
And I'm happy to work with whoever, Rep. Marcel, to make sure that we have the best training for our troopers.
We need to make sure that we fix that if this bill gets out here. Of course, I would pray that it wouldn't, but I kind of think it might.
All right, Representative Vice Chair Lyons for another bite at the apple.
Yes, Representative Chenoweth, I'm looking at the fiscal note, and you talked about the Department of Agriculture and Forestry, and we do know that the Minority Affairs Program was created because of the fact that you wanted to have, and last week was Black Farmers Day, and we had minority farmers here in the state. And it basically is a program that includes them in all of the necessary, not only as federal, but state things to allow them to be prosperous, to be a part of the program. So whenever you have a situation that's dominated by certain people, everybody's not inclusive. So you have to prepare things to make them included. That's the inclusivity part of this thing. So based upon this bill passes, that program is going to be gone, which there's an employee that works there that's administers that to make sure that happens. That goes away. So what's bad about that needs to go away?
Rep. Lyons, again, this bill brought from our governor in supporting this bill. I am here to tell you that no one should not be supported no matter what department they're in, whether there's a hire specifically for that or not. I believe that we've got to make sure that everyone is served. Minority farmers, whoever, everybody should be served. And I would hope that right now that whether that position exists or not, that we are doing that. And if not, that we should look into that, Rep. Lyons. We have to make sure that everybody is supported in no matter what they look like or where they come from.
If that thought was America's thought,
it's my thought.
This thought was your thought. Well, you wasn't born in 1964. But if that was America's thought, we wouldn't have diversity and inclusion like we have it now because it would have already been happening. But it's not happening. It hadn't happened now. And this basically reverses all those efforts to have that harmony, to have the inclusion in America and in the state to do that. So you're eliminating this process here, which is economically going to affect parts of this state. It's going to affect those farmers in this state when that program does not exist anymore. Particularly. And that's why it's there to include everyone everyone in the state to be prosperous. If you sell, if you farm, whatever you do, that program makes sure everybody's intact. Nothing bad about that. Nothing's failing about that either. As someone said, those programs are failing programs, but they're not. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Boyd.
One is a comment. UCLA nor Berkeley teaches gender identity for those who are interested in that. What happens to state agencies that might have like minority positions? Those positions will be eliminated?
Rep. Boyd, no one will be eliminated. No one should be eliminated in any capacity for their skin tone. I don't know what.
Minority is not just skin tone. You
I know, but
keep saying melon. That's not what minority is,
Well,
sweetie.
when I say melanin, I like to keep it in the most purest form, and from my heart to
that
anybody
purest form is
else's.
skin color to you?
No, I'm talking about
Okay,
how.
so I'm talking about if there's a state agency that has a minority position in place.
This is dealing specifically about the DEI initiatives and trainings and those offices.
So that position wouldn't be eliminated.
No, that's not. And again, I have to add, I don't, it's hard to look at, to tell you exactly what that position is, but it's dealing with DEI initiatives. It's positions that deal from a place of DEI
asking, Rep,
initiatives.
because in your initial part, you said positions would be eliminated. That's what you said. So I'm basing it on what you told me.
No, right. I'm just talking about as it pertains to DEI and state agencies. And so the reason it's a challenge to maybe answer directly right now, because I don't know that specific title of that person and what their role and what their job would be.
So that job could be eliminated. We're just not sure yet.
If it deals with DEI initiatives, it's about, it's not, it's
this
DEI
is your bill.
initiatives.
You don't know what's going to fall under there? You don't know the positions that are going to fall under there?
It is. I am. I'm saying it's, again, it has these two components of the state agencies and then DEI initiatives and programs, and then with the mandatory classes. So again,
you're going back to the schools.
I'm just telling you about my bill. You said this was my bill, and I was giving you those 2 points.
But is it only about the universities now? Because now we're just, every time I try to focus on other state agencies, you go to universities.
It is about both, Rep. Boyd.
Okay, so I'm asking about the non-universities, then let me say it like that. Would that be, is that a possibility for that position being eliminated?
If the position is dealing with the DEI initiatives in the state, potentially there could be a position, and there would.
Thank you, that's the answer to my question.
All right. Representative Larverdane.
I got a bunch of questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
I finally got a definition for white fragility. Fertility? No, not fertility. We're not pregnant. We're good. We're good. Fragility, F. White fragility refers to feelings of discomfort. I'm sorry, madam. White fragility refers to feelings of discomfort of white.
There's no cameras in here, sir.
Huh? Oh. He's taking my time. I'm going to need my time back. White fragility refers to feelings of discomfort of a white person experiences when they witness discussions around racial inequality and injustice. That's what we're fighting about. Let me tell you what I have a problem with your bill. Southern University African American College has to adopt a plan to ensure that there is no DEI agenda on their undergraduate program. Is that correct?
No, DEI within.
So they would have to do that.
This is about mandatory classes taken.
But see, the problem is you're going into this academic world. You're going with an academic world and then agencies.
Rep. Larverdane, I'm happy. I had worked with the Board of Regents in the last 2 days. I will continue to. I have before in the past to make it very clear, because the last thing I want to do is make that a challenge. The First Amendment matters greatly to me, which is why it is mentioned here. I am not banning classes. We are not telling people we cannot have classes offered. For the educational piece, it is about requiring students to take certain classes when it is not, that deals with these topics, and forcing them to take it in order to graduate. It isn't about anything other than that when it comes to the class side. And so this is the discussion I've had with Board of Regents, and I'm going to continue to do so over the next few days.
But what you're doing is that you're asking a university like Southern and Grambling to have a DEI agenda, and the problem is that their intent is to educate African Americans because they could not go to other schools years ago.
Rep. Larvin,
That's-
we are
that's
not
our
hindering
problem.
anyone to be educated in this bill. No one is saying that you can't educate groups. No one is saying in any capacity. If anything else, we have added in language to be very clear about everything can be discussed, whether it's historical movements. You can continue to have these courses offered at your university. Students can continue to enroll. That's not what this bill is doing. And again, when meeting in the next few days on the way to the floor, I have already spoken with Board of Regents again, and I'm happy to make sure that that is very clear because I do not want to shut down those conversations in any way.
Well, when you do DEI, please talk to the chairman of the Black Caucus. Talk to the African Americans. We want to know what's going on too, because the way it's written, we don't like it. We don't feel comfortable. We want to open doors for African Americans, not
I agree.
close
I do too.
opportunities.
I'm with you.
These bills are dangerous because with all the hate you're talking about Africa. Does this affect the Jewish community or Italian community?
Again, Laura Dane, this
It
is
only
about
deals
equality
with-
for everyone. This is not. This is about equality for all, making sure that our federal policy, our federal laws. Again, we in this country have passed laws, and I know that you are a very, very respected attorney, and you know that as well. That we have passed laws to protect individuals of all walks of life, and so this bill gets us in line to make sure that's exactly what we're doing. That no initiatives, because according to law, you cannot have initiatives that will go against our civil rights. You can't have any initiative that will work against our laws.
3 minutes is up. Representative Marcel, quick question because I want to get to these cards.
Quick question. Okay. Have you worked with the Southern University Board? Have you or will you? Because, that's the big issue.
Oh, of course, Rep. Marcel, thank you for that. I have not spoken to them yet specifically.
It's a good idea.
Right. I have just worked with Board of Regents to look at across systems.
I want to belabor this, but it's a good idea to talk to the Southern University Board because they have several issues with this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep.
Thank you, Representative Marcel. All right, if y'all would please clear the table, we're going to go to the witness card. All right, also present wishing to speak, Alan Camden with FGA Action. All right. Present not wishing to speak but in support, Deborah Melvin, Javen Folsom with Young Republicans, Larry Harms, Kathleen Harms, Trinity Wicker with Louisiana Family Forum, Jean Mills, and Miss Mary Susie Labry. All right. Red cards in opposition. Wishing to speak, Chairman Gaines. Come on up. Welcome back, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Boyer. It's great to be back here with my colleagues. I begin to realize again how hard you guys' jobs are, but it's always a pleasure. I'm going to be brief. I'm not going to be longer. I'll try to conform my comments within the 3 minutes. I want to say this and make this clear. DEI programs are not failed programs in any aspect, on any level. These programs have been the most effective workforce enhancement, workforce benefit programs that have ever been created. Now, we know it's been a known fact that there have been pervasive instances of racial and gender discrimination in our state and nation. Those particular consequences have not been remedied. So DEI programs not only help to remedy those consequences, but they make sure that they're not repeated. And as far as the benefits of the program, they have great benefits. DEI programs will create an environment, a recruitment environment that draws a wider range of more qualified applicants. You're going to get better people that apply. You're going to get more diverse people that's going to apply. That's a benefit within itself. DEI programs also, they make sure that you're not hiring the most unqualified person because, first of all, you have to be qualified to even get the job. It's not discriminating against anyone. When you apply for a position, you have to demonstrate the qualifications. DEI makes sure that opportunities are offered. Now, when we talk about individual rights, or denying of rights, that you don't have to deny a person individual rights. All you have to do is deny them opportunities. It's going to have the same effect, the same results. Several of my representatives have made some very interesting comments, and I really appreciate that. But let me say one other thing. DEI programs have been misperceived in so many ways, which have been perpetuated around the country. It's not giving an advantage to an unqualified person. It's not discriminating against anyone. It's not making sure that the company, in the private sector of the company, but in the government sector, that the state's hiring an unqualified person. It's making sure that the most qualified person is hired, regardless of race, gender, or regardless of whether or not they fall in a disadvantaged class. It's giving them the opportunity. It's not giving them advantage. It's making sure that they're not disadvantaged by racial prejudice or gender prejudice or any other kind of discrimination or prejudice that might handicap them. So this bill will have harmful consequences. Representative Boyd mentioned that. You don't have people losing their jobs who have done a great job, who are the best qualified, but they're losing their jobs because they've been classified under this bill.
Thank you, Representative Larverdane. Oh,
Thank you.
Chairman, you got a couple of questions.
Chairman, come back, Mr. Chairman. Isn't it true that corporations are looking for diversity so they can include as many people and you have different points of views at the table? Talk about that real quick.
Companies prosper. It's been proven that companies that have DEI programs have greater financial benefits than companies that don't. Because they appeal to a broader market, which increases their financial bottom line. So companies that have these programs have benefited greatly from these programs, and I would think that the same thing would translate to the state, because the state would have more productive, more effective programs, because it would reach more diverse communities.
What happens if we pass a bill of this nature? Will we have young people leaving the state, going for other opportunities? If young folks, that African Americans feel that there's no future here, will they stay here in Louisiana? What do you say about that?
That's not likely. I get a lot of comments from young people who want to educate and graduate. They want to leave the state because they feel that the state is becoming too extreme, it's too conservative, they're being denied opportunities. So this bill would have a chilling effect on bringing, not only keeping our talented graduates in the state, but bringing corporations and companies to this state.
At one time, you were on Southern University's board of directors, is that correct?
I was.
How would this affect the Southern University system real quickly?
Well, I think the author of the bill tried to delineate programs that may not affect our traditional HBCUs. But the perception is that this state does not want to give opportunities to minorities or to give opportunities to disadvantaged classes. That perception in itself will discourage the state's ability to educate and to attract young graduates back to the state from out of state, and to keep those talented students in the state.
You next. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Marcel. I'm not sure what you do to the mics, Representative Marcel. Let me try. Hold on one second. Try it again. Test it. Nope. Why don't you try Representative Larverdane's mic? She's going to break your mic too. Nope. 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 Let's see. Try Representative Billings. You want to try your mic? Nope.
Okay, here we go.
I'm trying. We're gonna need to get some technology over here. We have somebody come. Thank you. Sit tight. Tell you what, while we're doing that, let's see if Representative Boyd's mic works.
Hello. So,
Hold on.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Hold
ma'am.
on one second. Test. All right.
thank you for joining us.
Are you gonna need to reset this? All right. Let's hold
So
tight.
I gotta wait? Okay.
Yeah. Let's hold on. Let's try this again. All right. So Representative Marcel.
Okay.
Or a question.
Here we go. Thank you. Chairman Gaines.
Yes.
Has it been your experience that if there have been companies or places in government where it has been majority white in those offices, except that when DEI programs were presented, that they got a little diversity in it?
The DEI programs have generally been the most often used program to create the racial and gender diversity in these offices. Basically, if you don't have the DEI program, in most cases it doesn't take place.
Correct. And I really like the fact that people are not being judged, as the author said, about not just the color of their skin. And in my opinion, and it's not about the color of your skin. It's about being a minority. It could be women. It could be a lot of different variables. And I think we're focusing on one thing. You've been a state rep before, and in your opinion, do you think this bill should be dual referred to education? Because it has a lot of education components in it. Just from your knowledge.
Well, that may be more practical, but I can't exactly comment on that with authority because I would have to just.
I just want to know from your experience.
Yeah, with my experience, it would have been, but that's to be left up to the speaker.
I know who it's left up to. I just want to know what your experience was. Okay.
Yeah, from my experience, yes.
Yeah, I just want to get on the record that that's what I feel. Thank you,
Representative Marcel. Representative Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I almost call you state rep, but whatever. Because you mentioned something I said, and doing my own research, because apparently you were here the whole time, so you perceived what I perceived as well. The Louisiana Department of Agriculture has a position titled Minority and Veterans Affairs. Based on what we've heard today, you would think that job would be eliminated, correct?
Well, I would think the intent of the bill seems to be directed toward eliminating that job, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Boyd. All right, the board is clear. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
All right. Also, President in opposition wishing to speak. Tremel Howard, if I got that right. Is it Tremel?
Tremel, that's
okay, perfect.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Howard, please, he's with Education, Ed Trust Louisiana. Introduce yourself for the record, please.
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm Tremel Howard, and I serve as the State Director for the Education Trust. So I have prepared remarks, and then I want to, before I even get those prepared remarks, I have 3 minutes, I know. I used to be on the school board, so I think I can do this. So first things first, this body has already started to eliminate things that are considered DEI. Just last week, my organization, we have spent the last 6 years working to advance dual enrollment in the state of Louisiana, and we were removed from a task force because we were deemed DEI. Representative Amadei submitted an amendment that removed us from the task force. So this body has already begun to start those practices related to removing things that they deem DEI. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm a lifelong resident of Louisiana, former educator, and someone deeply committed to the promise of equity and public service. I come before you to express my grave concerns about the proposed legislation that seeks to ban diversity, equity, and inclusion. This bill does not simply target programs or offices. It targets the fundamental American idea that opportunity should depend on the zip code you're born into, the color of your skin, or the history of your ancestors. It sends a message to thousands of students, workers, and families across Louisiana that their experiences are not worth being understood and that their needs are not worth being met. Some will argue that this legislation is about protecting merit, but DEI has never been about lowering standards. It's about removing barriers. It's about ensuring that every Louisianian has the opportunity to rise, to contribute, and to lead. And let's be very clear, DEI has never only benefited people of color. In fact, white women have been amongst the greatest beneficiaries of affirmative action and diversity programs. According to the U.S. Department of Labor study, white women receive the majority of jobs created under affirmative action policies. They have since expanded access to education, corporate leadership, and public sector roles, doors that were closed before efforts towards inclusion began. So when we talk about ending DEI, we must ask, who are we really cutting off from opportunity? Look no further than our own pride and joy, the LSU football team of 2019 2016 and the 2023 NCAA Women's Basketball National Championships. These teams did not succeed in spite of diversity. They thrived because of it. Black, white, brown student athletes, first-generation college students, young women from rural and urban communities, all coming together with the support systems that saw their whole selves. They achieved not just because of talent, but because of the culture that embraced difference, invested in inclusion, and celebrated equity. What's more merit-based than creating an environment where everyone can bring their best selves? We've already seen what banning DEI has done across this country. And let me be honest, there are 4 more pressing issues that this body deserves to pay attention to. Louisiana leads the nation in poverty. Our public education system is underfunded. Our rural hospitals are closing and are falling behind. Our teachers are underpaid. Our children, especially black and brown children, are falling behind. These are the battles that deserve your energy. These are the fights that we definitely need to fight in this state. Wasting legislative hours and times in this committee attacking DEI is not only a distraction, it's a disservice. Thank you so much for your time, and I ask that you vote against this proposed legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. All right, we have Dadrius Lannis. I don't know if I got that right. Darius, okay. Dadrius.
Second D silent.
Darius, okay.
Darius Lannis, Executive Director for the Louisiana Democratic Party. I want to say, let me be very clear and very direct in a lot of what I say. Representative Chenevert was elected or took her office in 2014 and never had an issue with DEI until it became a sensationalized national topic. What this bill says is that to those who are affected, sit down and know your place. The legislative intent is what I question today, because it is disguised as promoting merit-based practices, but it only looks to perpetuate bad practices in state agencies. Let me give you an example. Currently right now, I don't know if you all know this, but our current administration has several family members that works inside of state agencies. Let me be more direct. One of the family members for the current administration works for a major state agency as an undersecretary, making over 6 figures and does not have a college degree, while her assistant, who makes less than half of her, has a master's degree. This is the reason why DEI is important. But let's go a step further. This bill questions the constitutionality of the 14th Amendment under the Equal Protection Clause, which states all individuals within a state's jurisdiction must be treated equally under the law. This means that the government cannot discriminate against individuals based on factors like race, gender, sexual orientation, or any other characteristics. This bill hinders the very ability to file complaints, grievances, or whistleblow when rules and laws are being broken in regards to hiring practices. This is one of the stipulations under this bill. Limit any programs, divisions, activities that assist in the investigation or prosecution of discrimination complaints with the Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Our state agencies should be diverse because white men with family connections and corporate ties should not be the only people able to earn a high-income job and opportunities. Our state should be equitable because far too long women have suffered under the thumb of outdated good old boy rules, and yes, women should have the ability to receive equal pay in male-dominated spaces. And yes, our state agencies should be inclusive because no matter your party affiliation, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your sexual orientation, however you choose to identify, no matter your physical abilities or disabilities, everyone in the state of Louisiana should have access to fair employment opportunities. Make that make sense. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Darius.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Marcel.
Mr. Darius, you are on the school board.
I am.
And what do you believe that this DEI bill will do as it relates to schools?
I think this DEI bill was specifically created to limit educational opportunities for students. That is no doubt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marcel. Thank you, sir. All right, we have Ms. Tia Fields with the NAACP. President in opposition wishing to speak. Ms. Fields, please introduce yourself for the record.
Sure. Tia Fields, the NAACP State Conference for Louisiana and the Baton Rouge Branch 6050B. Good afternoon, Chair and members of this committee. My name is Tia Fields. I am a representative of the NAACP State Conference of Louisiana. With this substitution bill, it's just not a minor policy tweak. It's a calculated assault on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It looks like it's designed to muzzle the truth, sanitize history, and strangle academic freedom under the pretense of protecting it. House Bill 421 claims to defend academic freedom, but it doesn't sit right with me. This bill is a blunt instrument of ideological control, a political hatchet job disguised as educational reform, meant to silence conversations about race, power, history, white fragility. While this bill claims to protect the teaching of historical atrocities such as slavery and the Holocaust, it simultaneously bans the language needed to understand their ongoing impacts. Concepts like systemic racism and implicit bias. It attempts to separate history from its modern consequences, sterilizing the past while erasing the present. The bill pretends to defend free speech while actively restricting it, banning entire disciplines of thought unless isolated within token departments. That is not freedom of speech. That's legislative censorship. By prohibiting DEI training and even discouraging questions about applicants' commitment to diversity, this bill punishes honestly, encourage, sending a clear message to educators and employees of the state: stay in line or face the consequences. Political stunts does not belong in policy that affects all of us. HB 421 is more than just a bad policy. It's a desperate political stunt, sacrificing our state's reputation for short-term gain. We deserve better. I urge you to reject this bill and stand up for real academic freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. All right, Caitlin Joshua. President in opposition wishing to speak.
Good afternoon, Caitlin Joshua, live in Rep. Genevieve's district. Why would we not have DI trainings? Why would we not require that young people who have gone to college away from mom and dad, who could quite frankly be problematic, who have never given their kids the opportunity to immerse themselves in cultures and sit at the lunch table with kids that don't look like them? Why wouldn't we positively introduce them to values that reflect diversity, equity, and inclusion? Our state has so much to offer, and bills like this keep us in the past. It signifies the continuation of racial systemic barriers. And to Rep. Boyd's point from earlier, what this could do to workforces, that alone should be a reason why we vote this down. These initiatives create access, minimize bias, and equip organizations to be fairer and more responsive to the diverse realities of the American workforce. I see this bill as quite literally helping no one. I've yet to hear what solution this is going after to solve, or problem this is going after to solve, and quite frankly, it hurts the masses. We have too many real issues, as was expressed in earlier testimony, in the state of Louisiana to be pandering to a small group of individuals who want us to simply stay in our place. Thank you.
Thank you. Molly Bush, President in opposition wishing to speak. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Sir. Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Bush. I'm a current freshman going to be a sophomore at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, but I'm a Baton Rouge native. I would just like to say, I think it's important to hear a young voice on this topic, as evidently, especially the new version of this bill, directly affects people my age. I left Louisiana to get an education because I felt that values of diversity and inclusion were being attacked in our state. Alabama, probably not the best place to have sought refuge from that, but I want to reemphasize a former point that is a sentiment that young people have. I believe that our state and the South in general has such a deep and scarring history of discrimination that it is impossible. It is impossible to regard this bill as anything other than an attack on any efforts made to make up for these histories. I understand that we are, as college students, still allowed and even mandated to learn about these histories by this bill, but I think it's also important for us to learn about the deeper implications that these histories have. I think that it allows people my age to turn a blind eye to many of the effects of policies like segregation and Jim Crow laws that I have learned so much about getting my education in Birmingham. That's definitely opened my eye to a lot of issues that still impact African Americans, the LGBTQ community, women. These are all people who our state has historically put down. And I think that any legislation that has any kind of attack on any policies trying to make up for any of these histories is an attack on all of the people in these communities. And to hear people who are in support of this bill echo these values of diversity and inclusion and say that they support them, I think that's frankly hypocritical. And as a young person, I encourage you not to support this bill just because of the endangerment that it puts our minorities and our people who we have discriminated against historically. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Also present in opposition, provide information if requested, Frankie Robinson. Present in opposition but not wishing to speak, Rodney Braxton with the Southern University System Foundation. Katie Bernhardt with Oxfam America. Telly Medina with Oxfam America. Is that form or fam? Oxfam America. Chandra Shea Foster with Southern Poverty Law Center, present in opposition, not wishing to speak. Peyton Rose Michelle with Louisiana Trans Advocates. Lana Odoms with ACLU Louisiana. Michelle Ehrenberg with Lift Louisiana. Destiny Hamilton. And Yuki Banks, all of these in opposition, not wishing to speak. Representative Chenevert, come close on your bill. We're not asking. We're done with questions. If I ask you, I got to let everybody else. We're done with questions. We're going to close.
I'll keep it short. All right.
Representative, we're on close.
We're on close. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We're on close.
Members, I know you've been here a while. I'll keep this short. I just wanted to mention that the laws mentioned in this bill, there was a few different things that were mentioned. Nothing in this bill will infringe on our title, on some of our incredible legislation that had been passed in the year that protects the rights of all Americans, including Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, the Age Discrimination Employment Act. Nothing will infringe on any of these. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title III of the Higher Education Act of 1965, the Americans with Disabilities Act, Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Nothing will infringe in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. This bill puts Louisiana in line with all federal laws and makes sure that we have equal opportunity for all, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
All right. Representative Weibel has made a motion that we report House Bill 421 favorable by substitute. Is there any objection? Representative Marcel objects. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair Boye?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Bayham? Yes. Representative Billings? Yes. Representative Boyd? No. Representative Carter? No. Representative Farnham?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Gadberry? Yes. Representative Larverdane? No. Vice Chair Lyons?
No.
No. Representative Marcel? Representative Marcel? No. Representative McMakin? Yes. Representative Newell? No. Representative Shammerhorn?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Thomas?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Wright?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Weibel? Yes. There are 10 yeas and 6 nays.
All right. House Bill 421 will be reported by substitute. One last item on the agenda. We have to adopt the minutes from
12/12.
from December 12th. Representative Bayham has made a motion.